Well, we are living a good life. Wasn't that incredible worship that we just experienced in the singing of songs? And worship is a lot of different things, but yeah, let's put our hands together for that. It's awesome to be able to do that and lift praises to God for all that he's done. We're living a good life, but also we have a really good senior pastor, and that's Jesus. Some of you are like, whoa. So it's a little bit of a joke there. But in our organizational chart, Jesus is our senior pastor, and he has blessed us, and he's brought some incredible things to our team, to our church, in the way that he is leading us, and we lean on that. We're nothing without him. And seeing the story that he's writing, the work that he's doing, as Doug and Brandon talked about earlier, we got to get away with our staff team, our elder team, spouses, and invade the metropolis of Baker City, Oregon. And as we went, we got to go out and just awesome time of vision, of leadership, of prayer, and just being together. And God is doing an incredible work. I don't know about you, but I love this group of people. So can we put our hands together for the way that they serve here at Rockharbor? Some are vocational, some are not. Some just do it for the money, and they have to answer to God for that. But for the most part, we are blessed to live in this culture, to live in this community, and God is doing a special work. So maybe you're not on our vocational team and you volunteer. We have 3 services. We are blessed as God is bringing more people to our area and to this valley. I don't know if you read Facebook, which is a great resource for news. But I don't know if you saw social media, went on KTVB, or saw some of the different sites out there that Meridian is voted the #1 place in the U.S. to move to. I don't know how that strikes you. Some of you are like, if one more person shares that, I am going to their house. I'm taking social media up in their business, and you're ready to just go for it. Some of you are like, oh, it's the greatest thing ever. And there's a few. How many of you have invaded this area? You are not a native to this place. Okay, most of you. Maybe the person you're sitting next to. How many of you are, I was born here, dang it, people? Look at all those born here, dang it, peoples. So I don't know how it strikes you, but what if we took an eternal perspective on it, okay? I know some of us, we like our things. Some of you are like, I hope it grows just a little bit more, and I like the growth, and I like what that brings. But let's just think about the space that God has us in. God is doing an incredible work. Our community is being set apart for some reason. We know why it's great. But what if a revival's taking place? What if God is saying, hey, you know what? You're going out to seek and save those who are lost. It's about my name. It's not about a church name. You're going out to do that. But I'm also going to bring people to your community. I'm going to bring people that need a safe place. Not just a safe environment, but a safe place to be able to have conversations about Jesus. A place to hear about generosity. A place to hear about what it means to live outside of yourself, to live for something else. And so that's how I desire to view it. And what we're celebrating is all that we just came through in the Freeway series as we talked about freedom. I mean, all the baptisms. We have a baptism later in the next service. We had 11 last week. People are giving their life to Jesus Christ. People are turning over that control. They're finding freedom in Jesus, and we get to be a part of it. There's something very special that's going on. And God is so good. He's the greatest author. He's the best tour guide. He's our best friend. He's got a design for us. And you know what? He's taking us right into our next conversation, our next series, our next point of growth for our church, and that's around generosity. So how do we live a good life, a generous life, in a consumeristic culture? How do we do that? Because generosity does not come natural. It's not our first reaction. I mean, think about a child. The first reaction isn't like, how can I share that, right? It's generally like, this is mine. I mean, you take the baby food out of their mouth, they're ready to go crazy. You do airplane, you pull it away. It's like the demons are coming out of the child, right? They want it. They want to get it. They're thinking about that. And that's just human nature. That's nothing to feel horrible about, but it is something that God wants to change in us. So how do we be generous? The good life is the generous life. Who would raise their hand and say, I can testify that in my life, I have experienced radical generosity. There is someone or some times in my life that I have seen generosity bless me immensely. Who would raise their hand and say, I've been blessed? Okay, so a lot of us have. Maybe you haven't seen that modeled. Maybe you haven't experienced that. I want to give you the opportunity. So would anybody in here say, I would love to take Keith and Doug's family out to Idaho Pizza following the service. It's only 15 people, not a big deal. It's a buffet as long as you get there by 2 o'clock. But who would raise and say, I want to experience generosity at that level? Okay, I see all those hands. This is going to be a good day. But generosity is a funny thing, and I could tell you hundreds of generosity stories. Let me tell you one that I didn't get permission, and this person doesn't know that I'm sharing, okay? They don't even know I know the story. But there's a guy that attends Rockharbor, and he had a friend that called him and said, hey, can I borrow your truck? And he said, yeah, sure, borrow my truck, just go get it, the keys are in it. Well, his friend gets to the house, and he's like, your truck is not here. And he said, yeah, it is. It's in the driveway. He goes, that's a brand new GMC. He said, yeah, you can borrow it. He's like, you're letting me borrow your brand new truck? He's like, yeah, I don't even care. Would we do that? That's a crazy person, okay? We get new things. We get new carpet. We don't let our kids in the house, you know? Like, you're in the garage until, I don't know, 7 years, you know? Then you can come inside. We get we keep the plastic on our couches, you know? The only time I've ever covered my couches in the past, because there's nothing to brag about, is because they were so bad that I spent $75 at Target for those covers that you pull over the top. I cut PVC pipe to jam it in there because those covers for the couches do not work. Can I get I feel sorry for you and I've been in your shoes, amen. Lots of us feel that, right? Who has cut PVC and jammed it in the cracks of your couches? Only me. See, if Pinterest was around 20 years ago when I did that, I would have been a famous DIY guy. Not DUI, DIY, do it yourself, okay? Kind of a guy. But I cut this PVC, it was to keep it safe and good and together, because when you sat down, it just looked nasty. See, we get new things and it's ours. We think about, like, I don't want to share it. I don't want anybody to mess this up. And I worked really hard for this. And we hold really tight hands, even to things that God has even blessed us with and God has graciously given to us. Have you ever been, like, awkwardly blessed? Because there was a couple. How many of you guys are twins in this room? You're a twin. Okay, how many of you have had twins? Okay? If you've had twins, you know how much work they are. If you are a twin, I want you to know you're a lot of work, okay? We had twins almost 12 years ago, and when we had our twins do they got to poop at the same time, they got to eat at the same time, everything happens at the same time, right? They cry at the same time, and so it's a lot of work. Well, there was 2 ladies, one by the name of Brenda and one by the name of Cindy, that they said that they were going to clean our house every week, Wednesday, 1 o'clock. That's awkward. That's my toilet, you know? I mean, it's fine if mom wants to come and do it because mom's seen everything, been everywhere, right, in my life. But when someone says, we want to bless you and we want to be generous towards you and we know things are tough right now. And so for 9 months they came and they cleaned our house. And I'm sitting here going, this is kind of awkward. Maybe I'll do the bathrooms, okay? Maybe I should be there when you're there and so I can help out, because sometimes we don't even know how to receive generosity. We've been blessed so that we can be a blessing. And generosity, what if we took it to a level of awkward? What if we took it to a level that it cross-culturally changed the way that people saw generosity? See, generosity is weird. But what our culture is calling normal, it's not working. Where's it getting us? See, culture promises us the good life, the commercials, the way to spend all of your money, and you see the happy family doing those things, and you're the not so happy family, but you're still doing the things, and it cost you more than you thought it was going to cost you, and you come back from it going, that was great, but how much did that cost again? And the credit card statement comes in, and this good life that was promised is not quite the good life. See, the culture delivers on a couple of things. It brings this attitude or this heart of getting and gaining, that I need to get me one of them. I'm going to get me some more of them. I gotta get more of that. Culture tells us to gain, that if we gather and we gain and we bring it together, then we're going to be blessed. And that's good enough. Culture promotes this assumption that all of our wealth is for our own consumption. That's cute, isn't it? Culture promotes an assumption that all of our wealth, everything that you've been given, is for you and your own consumption. All this that's been placed around me, all this that I've gained and I've gathered and I've brought in, I'm getting is for my own consumption. And it's just not true. And the painful reality is we feel empty. And the painful reality is we continue to deal with this feeling of what just happened? And I feel deeper and darker and less happy. I've been promised all these things and they haven't delivered to me. And even in our getting and gaining, and even in that little bit of generosity that we might throw into that, you know what we end up doing? We end up blessing others that can bless us. We do good for others sometimes because of what we can get out of it. A true no strings attached generosity is one of Jesus. It's the gospel. For God so loved the world that he gave. He gave. No strings attached. Giving to others who can't give back. Sometimes we give because of the accolades that we receive. And we don't even mean to, but we kind of like that people notice that we were kind and generous. We kind of give and then we kind of look around and kind of check the mail and kind of go, are we going to get a thank you note for that? I wonder if, why do we do that? Why are we doing that? I don't think anybody appreciates the sacrifice that I made. And generosity is not just about finance. So if your mind has gone there, because we talk about generosity and our minds naturally go there, because there is one thing that competes more than anything in our heart other than God. It is money. If there's one thing that competes with our heart, it is money. It's finances, it's resource. But let's think wealth. Let's think bigger than money. Let's think wealth. Let's think true riches. See, true riches and the true good life is a generous life. You know what a good life is? A good life's the gospel. Because see, if we get a foundation in what really good is, not good enough, but a foundation in where generosity and where grace and where for God so loved the world he gave comes from, that's the beginning of a whole new world for us, a whole new focus for us. Because we recognize our place. We recognize the grace that's been given to us, and we know we didn't earn that. The greatest things in your life are the things that you can't earn. They say the things that have the most value are the things that money can't buy. So let's put earning and buying aside for a second, and let's think about what has been graciously given to us that we did not earn. It's the gospel. It's Jesus Christ. It's him going to a cruel death on the cross for our sins. Being perfect, being God, yet coming down as a man. 100% God, 100% man. And offering his physical life on the cross for our sins. Mocked, beaten, bruised, and then raising from that death to life. For you and for me. And now he's in pursuit of us. He's after us. The gospel's been brought to us. This grace, as Ephesians 2 tells us. But God, being rich in mercy because of the great love with which he loved us. And when we were dead in our trespasses, he made us alive together with Christ by what? By grace. It's by his grace that we've been saved. We've been raised up with him and seated with him in heavenly places. In whom? In Jesus Christ, the greatest gift and the grace that's been given to us, so that in the coming ages we might show the immeasurable. So much we can't even count, we can't even fathom the riches of his grace and kindness in Jesus Christ. It's through him, it's by him. Once we recognize and receive this grace, the good life is a life of grace, and it's one that distributes it readily. It's one that shares it often. The good life is a generous life. There was a group of people in the first century that really latched onto it. And it was people that walked with Jesus, and they were radically changed by him, that it changed how they walked with others. They walked with Jesus, they saw his grace, they saw his generosity, and it changed how they walked in their life. Acts 2 records it this way, that they were selling their possessions. This is amazing. They sold their things for what purpose? Distributing their proceeds to all as anyone had need. They had open hands towards these resources that they'd been given. And then day by day, attending the temple together and breaking bread in their homes, they received their food with glad and generous hearts. Thank you for what you've brought into us as we go ahead and let it flow through us. Praising God and having favor with all the people. And the Lord added, the Lord multiplied, the Lord brought the increase to their number day by day, those who were being saved. That's an eternal mindset. That's a mindset that says, hey, what do I have to share? I'm going to have to share my zip code with more people. That's awkward. I'm going to have more people move in on my street. I know there's another house that's going up. I know they're wanting to pass this bond, and there's growth going over here, and there's all this stuff that's taking place in our life. And I'm not getting political about it, but let's get eternal about it. Let's start recognizing that maybe God is he's brought revival, and he's going to bring revival through us so that why? So that the Lord could add to the number day by day those who are being saved. But see, if we don't have generous hearts, and if we look at it like, I don't like this makes me uncomfortable, have we lost sight on our vapor? Our 40 years, or 12 years, or 15 years, or 80 years? How are we living our life, and what perspective do we have about this life that we've been given? Because this early church, you know what they were? They were unified and they were generous. And the world was changed to the point that we're sitting in a public high school having a church service when there's about 100 other things we could be doing. Today might be the largest attendance we've ever had at Rockharbor Church outside of a big kind of a special Easter Sunday or something like that. And you made the decision to be here. If you're watching online, mad props to you for taking the time to do that. Praise God for that, to not miss out on it. But making a dedicated time to say, I want to grow, I want to learn, I want to take the next step, I want to be challenged, and I want to see the world changed. I want to see what this says. I want to see people being added daily. I want to have a generous heart. They were in unity. They were moving forward towards the gospel. And you know what generosity does? It paves the way for the gospel. If you don't write anything else down today, I just invite you to carve that into your arm, okay? Generosity paves the way for the gospel. See, when I was in 8th grade, I had a Bible, and I got to grow up in church, and I was nervous about writing in my Bible and underlining stuff because I thought I would mess it up. I mean, my mom was like, quit leaving it at church, and you got to take care of it, and you left it in the car again, and all that. Sorry, that's not really how my mom talks. But I remember going, I don't want to write in my Bible. And then I finally had the courage to write in my Bible. And I opened it up, and on the first cover, I'm like, okay, this is going to be in here. I got to write really good, My name was on the front, Keith Ryan Harrington. And here's the first words that I ever wrote in a Bible that I owned, okay? People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That's the message of generosity. This culture that we live in, they don't care how much you know. They know that you have theology, church, okay? If you're a churchy kind of person, they know you have theology. They know you have opinions about things. They know what you probably do 2 out of 4 Sundays a year, according to the national average. You go to church 2 out of 4, and that's a big sacrifice, right? They know that you have some things that you do with your time. They might have some opinions or thoughts about what you might do with your money, but guess what? None of it matters. It's not something that's cared about, but you know what is cared about? Generosity. Because what if this awkward generosity, and what if Rockharbor changed the culture of what's going around? Yes, we live in a good moral community, but what if we lived in a generous community that paved the way for the gospel? Radical generosity. Not, I'm checking something off the list so I can get something later and I can feel better about myself. But what if we lived in a generous culture? What if God decided to change the culture because of the generosity of those who follow Jesus? I believe that he can do that. I believe that he can call that out of us. I believe that Rockharbor is different, and I believe that we can create this difference in our culture because it's already happening. It's already happening. Ever since the inception of Rockharbor, we've never had a student that wanted to go to camp that financially wasn't allowed or couldn't go to camp. Because you guys take care of those needs. These are people that don't even know anything about what is going on. They've never been to Rockharbor Church. They've never been to youth group. But their friend is Eric. And Eric invited them. And they're under this impression that it's going to be awesome because they like Eric. And it's going to be awesome because there's going to be girls there, right? And so within the might and the reach of this church, those resources and those needs have always been met. You know what else? We did a coat drive. We invited people to be part of this coat drive. And guess what you guys did? The first week you brought 13 coats and we stressed out because we promised we were going to have a coat giveaway because you do things like Rockharbor does things, you know? We have a 10:15 service and you show up at 10:20. So we can get a little bit nervous. Is anybody coming today? You know what I'm talking about? You do the same thing with the coat drive. Oh yeah, we're going to get 1,000 coats. 13. We're like, okay, on Facebook, we got to get Facebook out. We got to announce. We got to get people. We got to call people. We got to get 1,300 people. We got to go grab a trailer. Your generosity is obnoxious. You're like, I mean, it's awesome. But you're also like that fourth quarter team. The first three is nothing to be proud of, and all of a sudden you just dominate the fourth quarter. That's great until you don't show up the fourth quarter someday, and then the kids are freezing because they don't have coats. But the point is this, is the needs are always met. Right now on your communication card, there's a little box that says, my family or a family I know could use help for Christmas. We do a giving tree every year. Last year, $17,000 in gifts and gift cards were provided in 3 short weeks. We had a mangy little tree in the lobby that had things written on it. It was mangy. And we had things written on it, and people come and grab these tags, and they provide Christmas for families at the Boys and Girls Club and Heritage Middle School and here at Rocky Mountain High School, people that attend Rockharbor, people that go all over the place for all different reasons, but they're in your neighborhood or you've met them somehow, some way. We've met the need, one church, one child, through our foster and orphan care ministry, all of those things. And it's done in 3 weeks. It's like it's not even that difficult because generosity is already brewing. And this week is our Operation Christmas Child, those shoe boxes that you've seen in the lobby, and you may be like, oh, I should probably grab one. Yeah, you should. But we also jammed one underneath your windshield wiper. It's out there when you get to your car. You don't need to worry about it. It's there waiting on you. It's actually not, but that's a pretty good idea. So you should just stop by the booth and grab one. And all it is a little box that you go and fill up, and for approximately $20 or more than that, whatever you want to spend on it, you can fill this box with things that will bless someone in Africa. It will bless someone in Honduras or wherever it is taken. It's taken with the message of Jesus, and lives are changed, and churches are planted, and ministries are started through something as simple as some people from 83642 and 46 and 91 and all these other zips around here that said, let's be generous and let's go take an hour and fill a box, and we'll bring it back next Sunday. And it's not just adults taking on this vision. And why do we think that we need to wait till we're 40 to be generous? The truth is, as Americans, we are not that great at generosity. We're not good at being rich. Because you think this, you think the more money you have, the more you'll give, and that is not true. You look at statistics. The more money you make, the less generous by percentage you actually are. You may give more money, but you give less than a percentage. That's sad. So why do we wait till we're 40 or till we really think we're going to have money to be generous when we haven't practiced it for 12 and 14 and 20 and 40 years? We think all of a sudden it's just going to happen and we're going to be okay with letting not just dollars out, but thousands of dollars out of our hands, or hundreds of thousands of dollars. All of a sudden we're going to start a foundation. It's just going to happen. It doesn't happen like that. That's why we have to start at a young age. That's why the shoebox. I'm not jumping on the shoebox horse, but I kind of am, okay? And here's why. Because it's an easy way to teach generosity to your children. And I might be the worst dad ever, but I make my kids pay for their own shoebox. Not the box, everything that goes in the box. They get an allowance. They get an allowance every month, and they've got a give, save, and a live thing, and it goes in there, and they save it up, and they save it up for a couple of months. So when we invade that dollar store with our crew, and when we invade Target tonight with our community group, and all of us have our boxes, my kids are going to pull out their dollars. And I'm going to sit over there as dad go, that's awesome. It's not my money. I'm not swiping no card. It's like, well, it kind of is my money, but it's God's money because I gave it to them. I'm trying to teach them something. But they're paying with their own money, and they're learning generosity, and they're super pumped because there's a kid that's 11 years old or 9 years old or 8 years old in another country that they're going to get to personally, tangibly minister to, and they're learning it at that age. That is not perfect. We're going to get in some fights tonight. We're going to tell them, you can't buy that. We're going to tell them, no, not one for the kid and one for you. I know it's going to happen. It is not a perfect mess, but it's beautiful. And it's work, because generosity is work. It's an immense amount of work. The Bible says to don't do it begrudgingly. Don't do it begrudgingly. Don't do it out of obligation, that we should give freely and that our hearts should not be grudging when we give to them. Culture knows your theology, but do they know your generosity? What does that sticker on your car mean? Does it mean a generous place? For some of you that have the sticker, for some of you that drive the way you do, it's probably a good idea to not have it. But does it mean generosity? Is that what we want to be known for that? So is that what's seen? Luke 6 talks about the fact that oftentimes we give to get. If you love those who love you, what benefit is it for you? Even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who do good for you, what benefit is that to do? For even sinners do the same thing. And if you lend from those who you expect to receive, what credit is to that? Even sinners lend to sinners, and they expect the same amount back. But love your enemies and do good and lend, expecting nothing in return. And your reward will be great, and you will be sons of the Most High, for he is kind. And what is he? He's kind to the ungrateful and to the evil. See, that verse seems like it should be common sense, but the practical side is so difficult. Because in this culture, when this was written, in the culture that we're talking about today, in the first century, there was Roman emperors. And one of them, they started to put this word on the coin. It was liberalitas. It's a Latin word that means to be generous. It means charity. And they put it on the coin, but they used it differently. Because they would come out with these coins, and they'd come out with their money, and they would move into these areas. They would come into this place that they ruled over, and they would throw it out into the crowds, and they would come in and they would give something. For what purpose? So when they needed those people, they would vote for them, right? For when they needed those people, they would go to battle for them. For when they needed those people for something, they had given their money because they were going to get something. We would never do that, right? We would never do that. We don't have that much money to give out. See, cross-culturally speaking and in a kingdom mindset, what if we did good to others who couldn't do that back to us? There is no strings attached. There's no benefit we're looking towards. See, there was a group of people in the first century that their generosity changed the world. Their generosity was not just recorded in a Bible story. Their generosity was recorded in history books from those days. This group of people were called Christians. These followers of Jesus, you know what they did? When plagues moved into a certain area, those who had money left first because they had the money to leave first. They would take their things and they would go because the plague had come. They didn't want to be sick. But you know who stayed back? Christians. They stayed back and they ministered to those who were dying. They gave love to those who were forgotten, those who were left behind. We think when we have money it will change our generosity, and it doesn't. You know what changes our generosity? Jesus. The grace of Jesus changed our generosity. The grace of Jesus, when things get dirty and messy and disease comes, it changes the way we see things. It wasn't just that, because in that culture, in that day, when a child was born with a birth defect, or they noticed over a time or a season that there was an inadequacy in them, they would take them beyond the city gates to leave them to whomever, to whatever, to the sex trade, to whatever it was, to the elements, infants, newborn babies with cleft palate and other things, they would place out because these were not valuable. Maybe they were of a different gender, or they looked a little bit different, or there was maybe some deformities that were not okay, and we'll just have another child. They were placed outside of the city, but you know who came in and rescued those children? It wasn't those who had money that had plenty of room for them. It was Christians. They came in. They communed. They shared what they had. They gave to others. They brought in and created what we now know as adoption. And why did they do it? Because they recognized that they had been adopted. This is not a new phenomenon. This isn't the world's got smaller and we have airplanes now. People ministered in their own cities to needs that were had in those days, because Jesus had changed them. Jesus had made them generous. Today is Orphan Sunday around this world and around our nation. It's the second Sunday of November. It comes every year. Emails go out, invites go out to, hey, share with your church about orphan care and what that could look like. We could show you a video, we could give you a handout. But what if we looked at the Word? What if we really read James 1:27 that says, religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this, to visit the orphans, to visit the widows in their affliction, and to keep oneself unstained from the world, to not buy into the lie and the assumption that all of our wealth is for our own consumption. What if we shared? What if we didn't see this as just orphan care? And what if we didn't just see this as do you give to a local ministry? What if we saw it as all the riches and wealth that we've been graciously given by God? All the riches, all the wealth. Do you know there's 153 million orphans in the world? And we are worried about our city having 90,000 people instead of 87.2. 153 million orphans in the world. And we're worried about that next house that's moving in and what kind of trees that they're planting. And I don't want a single word that I'm saying to be anything around guilt, because I've had weeks to prepare to give this message and try to get my heart right to receive it, right? I've had plenty of time to prepare mentally for all of the lack of grace that I have in my life and the generosity that's lacking in my life. I want to show you a picture of a 3-year-old girl without a family. And the reason I want to show you this picture is because I can't take all of you to Guatemala in 10 days with Rockharbor as we minister to the 22 kids that are in our orphanage down there. Some of you don't even know that. We support an orphanage, and we're taking our 33 people to play with kids and to minister to them and to do all sorts of things and go to our feeding center and all that. And I can't take all of you. That would be a logistical nightmare, right? To have that many people go. But we get to go. We're going to play with the kids so long, they're going to be like, are you guys ever going to leave? You guys are exhausting us. I can't take you all there. I can't take you all to Ethiopia. But can I show you a face? I remember that face like it was yesterday. But this is the face that I get to wake up to every day. That's my daughter. 6 years later. You know what? My biggest prayer of today's message was that, God, I don't want this to be about the Harrington story of adoption or guilting one more person to do something about orphan care. Or that people would leave and go, man, I just don't even know where to start because I'm not even generous. So can I take you to a time before I ever met her? And can I take you to a time that was following the death of both of her parents between the years of 2.5 and 4 when I met her? Can I show you some faces? That's not just a nanny. That's not just the person that acted as her caregiver. That there is a follower of Jesus Christ. That is not an orphanage director or somebody who works in family services. That's a follower of Jesus Christ that has caught mission. That's not a cook. That's not the one that did their best to try to be a nurse and to take care of all the kids that were hurting. The 53 kids in that facility, that's a follower of Jesus. That man bears the same name as my son, one of my sons. It's not a coincidence. That man's a follower of Jesus. And just like the first generation church, the first century church, they caught a vision for generosity. They caught a vision for what could it be like and how do we be Jesus. And now, centuries later, we have forgotten. And we're worried about our things and getting and gaining. And we try some generosity, but we kind of hope that it kind of blesses us in the future. We do it for different reasons. And we have been called out. Because in 1 Timothy, our theme for our conversation over the next few weeks is, they are to do good. We are to be rich in good works. We are to be generous, and we are to be ready to share. Have you bought into the assumption that your wealth is for your own consumption? Are you truly living the good life? Would you bow your heads with me? God, we know that we have been blessed. Just by the fact that we live in this country, we've been given immense riches, but these riches carry a great responsibility. So God, help us in that responsibility. Help us to do well with what we've been given. Thank you for the grace that you've poured out on us. Thank you for the freedom that you bring to us and then you bring through us to share with the lives of other people. You are a good and you are a gracious God, and you've called us to the good life. And the good life is doing what you have already exampled for us. It's giving all. I pray that conversations would begin. I pray that more questions may be caused from today that may make us think. It may make us ask. And for some, it may cause us to surrender to you for salvation. For others, it's to surrender the wealth and the riches in our life, whether that's an individual, a relationship, a talent, a treasure, to say it's yours, God. Let us be great stewards. Let us live the good life with you leading it. And we ask this in your name, amen. I just want to bring a little bit of attention to the fact that my prayer was that we could get through that entire message and not think about giving to a church. We're given to God. There may be a byproduct of that. But you know what's awesome? We get to celebrate here at Rockharbor that in the last 10 months, we've given away $158,000 to outreach. There's an insert in your bulletin that talks about it. We got to celebrate that. God's doing incredible things around the world. We get to partner all over this valley with church planting and things going on, that you are a generous group. You are growing in this generosity, and God is challenging us to not settle in that. So we celebrate that, and also I get the opportunity to roll into the video with Todd Gill, our finance director, to share about the blessing and some vision around the finances here at Rockharbor.
Hey everyone, my name is Todd Gill. I'm the finance director here at Rockharbor and also one of the elders for the church. This morning we have a quick update on our finances. You have an insert in your bulletin which has a lot of detail. We want to be known by how we pray and what we give away. And that's one of the first things I want to mention this morning, is a celebration for the generosity of this church. 13% of all of the sacrificial giving that comes into the church goes into our outreach fund. And if you look in your insert, $158,000 has been given away to our partners and other worthy causes in our state, in our country, and around the world. We would not be able to do that without your sacrificial giving, and we want to thank you for that. And the sacrificial giving of the church has increased 36%, and that is actually faster than the attendance has increased in this last year on a weekly basis, which is 29%. And that's the first time that's happened at Rockharbor, that our sacrificial giving has increased faster than our attendance, and that's fantastic. When it comes to all of those resources that have come to Rockharbor, we want to speak a little bit on our stewardship and what Rockharbor does with the finances that we have been provided. And one of those is the programs and the services and what we provide for 1,600 people per week. There's a significant amount of activities. There is multiple services, and all of that translates into operating expenses for the church on a monthly basis. We also are good stewards with our staffing. We have hired staff in the past year, and we continue to add staff, but we're running lean. Church statistics would say, for the number of people that we have, that we should have 16 full-time equivalent staff, and we're at 13 right now. We want to be good stewards of the resources that we've been given. What's that translated to? As you can see in your bulletin, our general fund is now at about $450,000. Now, if you take and ask the question of what is that savings for? One of the first things is an appropriate reserve for operating expenses for a few months. So a reserve of about $220,000 is included within that. So that leaves about $230,000 of savings for the church. And that begs the question that many have asked is, what is that for, and what are we going to do with those funds? We have a great relationship with Rocky Mountain High School and each of the departments that we use on a weekly basis. But the question may be, are we buying land? Are we going to remodel an existing building? We remain very open to where God may be leading us. God may reveal His plan to us that includes those opportunities in the future. And we're very excited about this savings that we do have, because then we're better prepared to take advantage of that opportunity if God reveals it to us. So thank you for your generosity. And for those that want to get involved in giving to Rockharbor, you can give online on the website, and there's a reoccurring option there if you choose to do so that provides a consistent budget for you and for Rockharbor, or you can give at any one of our services. But we truly appreciate your sacrificial giving, because your generosity is changing lives, and that's what Rockharbor is all about.